14 of them, at least have the general human shape. The length is very consistent, more so than the dinosaur tracks, actually, even though some of them are in the process of being revealed. You see individual toes in 7 of the 14, which is exceptional. Mary Leakey's tracks over in Africa, you don't see any individual. Well, you see the great toe in a few of them. Actually, only one that I remember, maybe 2, but none of the individual toes. And of course, I've shown you the most impressive ones. You can distinguish right from left in 12 of the 14. 2 of them are just oblong shapes, but in front of it is a right and behind it is a right. They're consistent from one end to the other. And when Glenn Cluban is lecturing on this, guess which 2 he shows? You're right. But this is the way you do science. Richard Dawkins can sit behind his desk and say, I know humans and dinosaurs didn't live together, it has to be carved. But you get out and you do the excavation and you do the analysis and you do the measurements and you do a grid and you analyze this, and when you do, you come up with, I think, excellent evidence. Though the typical response is, well, yeah, that's interesting, but you need more evidence. Now that's just standard. You just say it that way, no matter how much you got, it seems like. We decided to follow this Brontosaurus trail back in the opposite direction, and especially the drought of 2000, we were able to do more. We pumped the river dry and watered the farmers' fields on either side, and with about 3 months' worth of work, exposed a 500-foot consecutive trail. It's the longest consecutive trail on the American continent, second longest in the world. And it's not only the longest, I think it's the best. These tracks are some of the most spectacularly clear tracks in the world. I think maybe the most spectacular. And a creationist did that. Well, when we look at these tracks, the ones going behind the fellow standing there, they're very different. We know what dinosaur tracks look like. We got a whole 156 of them in this trail, and they're clear, and we understand what dinosaur tracks look like. These look different, and they look like human tracks, as we have shown you. Well, that's impressive, but guess what they say next? Well, you need more evidence. So we went ahead of this fella, and you see the platform directly ahead of him. We excavated several layers down, cleaned it off, and sure enough, you see about 100 dinosaur tracks on this platform, and right through the middle of it is another human trail, this time 15 in a right-left sequence. You can see the mud push up around the tracks even from that distance. This was a different individual. This one is about 10 inches. The other one's about 11 and 11 and a half inches. Looking at a close-up of the 2 tracks in the center of that trail, and each of them would be interesting. We don't have time to do all of that this evening. But you can see the duck-shaped dinosaur tracks here, and they're raised. The one on the left especially dramatically raised, and the one on the right is slightly raised. But look what stepped in the back of the one on the right, with dramatic mud push-up. Not raised, but depressed with mud push-up around it. Looking at a close-up of that one on the right, you see here the raised dinosaur track. That's very typical and just like the one beside it, so you know what it's supposed to look like. But there within it is just an incredibly clear human shape with a dramatic arch, and you actually see the joints in the toes. And you can see that it's in a sequence of 15 in a right-left pattern. Others are not quite that clear, others are very clear, and others not so clear, but that's what you expect when you're making tracks in the mud, maybe not intentionally. And so now we have 2 trails. Now, you want more evidence? Okay, we got more evidence. And it's interesting to present this on college campuses. We just have lots of fun with it. I think these are the perfect turvy fossils. It's not intrusional like the bones. You can't erode them and redeposit them. They're not carved because they're excavated from under the overburden. It's not erosion. You've got a right-left pattern. How do you explain that? We had Dr. Chuck Finsley come down and look at the tracks. He was wanting one of the dinosaurs that we'd excavated from the area to display. He's curator of the American Museum of Natural, Dallas Museum of Natural History in Dallas. And he's recently retired. He was there for 30 years. And he looked at these, and he got rather disturbed and went home, and then came back and then went home. And third time down, he said, well, Dr. Patton, I have an explanation for you. I think I can explain these human-looking tracks. He says, I think they were made by aliens. And he was dead serious. And I kind of snickered, and he got mad. And I said, well, Chuck, if they were aliens, I guess they came from a galaxy far, far away, and they're very advanced, more so than we are. And what are they doing walking around barefooted? He didn't like that either. But it kind of reminded me of the Far Side cartoon by Gary Lawson. Here's Professor Farrington and his controversial theory that dinosaurs were actually the discarded chicken bones of giant alien picnickers, which I think is pretty far out. But if you want to draw a cartoon, maybe we should draw it this way. And I think this is a picture of what was going on. These were the fellas that missed the boat. But let's summarize this first section. First, we need to understand the column you see in the textbooks is a conceptual correlation. It's not found anywhere. It's the result of the assumption, correlating. The top C fossils, the things supposed to be down found up, falsify the idea of extinction that you hear parroted all the time. The turvy fossils falsify evolution, that is, the things that you are supposed to be at the top that are found down, as we see with the dinosaurs, for example. The Malachite man, you've got 10 individuals found with the dinosaurs 50 feet down in the Dakota sandstone, and we've got fossil footprints that we've shown you now from the Taylor Trail and the McFall Trail, the two trails there near Dinosaur Valley State Park. Well, there's a